Welcome back to our path to finding the perfect car. In this episode, we have a beautiful Mercedes-Benz E55 AMG from 2006. A lot of people will argue that this is the realest and purest AMG ever produced, while others refer to it as the Godfather. This is actually the car that started our series here on YouTube where we review cars. A lot of you guys have probably already seen this one, but unfortunately we had to make a new YouTube channel, so therefore we figured we might as well just make a new episode because we've become a lot better at the reviews. And I've also had this one for longer because yes, this is my personal E55 AMG and I have a little bit of better inputs, so to speak, about this particular vehicle. So why on earth did I decide to buy myself an E55 AMG W211? The story actually begins back in 2005 in Los Angeles, California, where I was visiting my cousins and her dad actually bought one of these brand new. And as soon as I got there, he said, drop your luggage and don't do anything else than to get into my car and then I'm gonna take you for a ride. That resulted in me being 12 years old, realizing that I want one of these. The E55 AMG came with a supercharged V8 and was produced between 2003 and 2006. They continued producing the AMG W211 after 2006, but they renamed it to E63, gave it a facelift, and used the same engine that can be found in the C63 and without the supercharger. One of the many reasons why you probably only saw lawyers and doctors driving around in these back in the day was because the base MSRP was around $85,000. This one in particular, again, is a 2006 and it is fully loaded. I don't unfortunately have the MSRP, but I assume it's around $100,000, which was a lot back then. But the good thing about these is you can find a decent one anywhere between $8,000 and $15,000 US dollars here in America today. Under the hood of this car, we have a 5.4 liter supercharged V8 that was producing 469 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque when it came out in 2003. That made this car the fastest production saloon that you could buy. This one in particular has got a few modifications done to it, such as a 77mm supercharger pulley, DTK tune, both for the TCU and the ECU, heat exchanger, long tube headers, and an X-pipe. And with these modifications, this car should be making around 600 horsepower. Within the first month of ownership of this E55, the notorious air suspension system failed on me and left me stranded on the side of the road as the front right was sagging. I could have probably just replaced the sensor, but I thought to myself that I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road ever again, so I ordered myself some BC coilovers, so that's what's on this particular car. And I know a lot of you guys will argue that it ruins the drivability and the comfort of this car, which I can agree with to an extent, but I also don't want to be left stranded ever again since it is notorious for failing. The only modification I've done to the rear of this car is going to be the carbon fiber diffuser that I've recently just put on. And if you want to see the installation of that or modifications that we will do in the future to this car, they can be found on this YouTube channel. We're going to move on to the trunk space of the E55 AMG, which is not enormous, but it isn't tiny either. You can easily fit a couple of traveling bags, golfing bags, or whatever else that you would want to put in there. You can stare at this beautiful Mercedes all day, but that's not what we're here for. We're going to see what the E55 is all about. Tip of the day, guys. Are you also tired of spending a fortune at gas stations, buying energy drinks that aren't healthy for you at all? This is probably the healthiest option on the market right now, and if you use my personal discount code, you're getting 20% off, so don't miss out. Everything is going to be linked in the description down below. When I'm doing this review, I'm trying my very best not to be biased, but it's always going to be difficult since, I mean, again, it is my car and I picked it for a reason. I could share with you the reasons why I like it and my thoughts of it, being whenever you're driving it like this, you feel like the king. It's comfortable. It's almost like it's an S-Class with performance. So that's what I assume Mercedes was aiming for. They were trying to get something luxurious and big that is also quick. And I believe they succeeded very well, because the comfort level in this car is the first thing that comes to mind, and it feels very luxurious. You don't have all the squeaking sounds and everything whenever you're pushing a door panel or whenever you're opening this cup holder, and it just feels very solid overall. But the downside to these cars when driving them is always going to be the 5G transmission. It is one of the slowest transmissions I've ever driven, and it takes forever for them to shift, which is going to be the negative side of the E55, because the power is there, but the shifting time is horrible. Imagine driving this spaceship 22 years ago when you barely had a TV at your house, and all of a sudden you're sitting in this luxurious performance vehicle which has navigation system, it has heated and cooled seats, it's got dynamic seats, and even a massage function, which honestly isn't really all that, but it's there. Steering column is adjustable electronically. You have 3 memory settings to set your seat and your steering. And it also has keyless go, keyless entry, electronic trunk. What more can you really ask for? Whenever you're enjoying your massage and you just realize that you're in a little bit of a rush, you just accelerate by just a little bit or tap the gas, and all of a sudden you are flying down the highway. I am still impressed even in today's standard. I mean, even the Harman Kardon system that's in this particular one is amazing. The audio quality is great even 22 years later. Even if I could, and even if I got it for free, I wouldn't want to swap it out. That's how good it is. And this one also has the panoramic sunroof, which gives you a very nice summer feeling whenever the sun's out, because it feels like you're driving a convertible even though you're not. It sounds so nice. This one could be a little bit louder. I am thinking about making some modifications to the mufflers, because it still has the stock resonator and the stock mufflers. Whenever you're downshifting and you're just tapping it a little bit, what I like about these two is I actually turned the traction control off. As many of you guys already know, I do drifting, so I like to go sideways. I'm trying not to. If you're looking to buy an E55 W211, I would strongly recommend that you try to find one from 2005 and up, as they tried to get rid of all the flaws. If you're unsure if it is a newer version of the W211, there are 2 major things that will give this car away. If you have a 2005 and up, the center console will be different compared to the old one, where you have the sliding rack rather than the old one that had a push to open compartment. And also the speedometer in the newer one goes to 200 miles an hour compared to the old one that only had 160 on the speedometer. Just listen to it. What? That is the best about this car. Low end torque, you're not even flooring it. You just feel like you're the king because you're not even stepping on it and you're just yapping everybody out there. I mean, obviously not everybody, but listen to it. That's a little bit too fast. That's not good. And now, since this one is on coilovers, I mean, obviously the handling is going to be different than if you're on air suspension. I believe when I had it on air suspension, I wasn't really all that impressed. It has the extras and the features to where whenever you're passing, I believe it's 120 or 125 kilometers, somewhere there, the car lowers itself on the air suspension to give you better fuel efficiency and handling and all that stuff. Mine is lowered on coilovers right now, so I'm probably getting that same fuel efficiency even below 120 or 125 kilometers an hour anyway. Since we're already in the car, I'm gonna rate the interior 8 out of 10 points. And the downfall of this Mercedes obviously has to be the hideous steering wheel. It feels pretty nice, and the buttons are very nice to push actually, but it's pretty ugly. And it is modern even for today's standards, and it was very modern back then, but it's also kind of boring with the old man's wood trim, and 8 out of 10 points. That's me being generous, but also fair. And since we just drove this car, we're moving on to comfort. It is very comfortable. When you hit the massage buttons and you have the dynamic seats and everything, this one is getting 9 out of 10. The only downfall of this is it's a little bit stiff on coilovers, but everything is reachable. Everything is just where you want it to be. The AC is super cold for hot, sunny Florida. It's getting 9 out of 10 points. And again, since we just drove this, you all heard the exhaust. It's nice, but it could be a little bit louder. I'm giving that 7 out of 10 points. The exterior of this beautiful W211 is getting 9 out of 10 points. I previously gave it 8.5, but that was prior to putting on the carbon fiber lip, the diffuser, and painting the headlight housings in black. And I'm actually curious to hear about your guys' opinion on painting them. In my opinion, it gave the car a huge lift. It looks way better, especially when the car is already black, so it kind of gives you the black on black feel. 9 out of 10 points, beautiful exterior. The performance of the E55 is good. The reason why I want to rate it super high is because of the low end torque and also the high end. There is just torque everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, what RPMs, you have a bunch of torque and a bunch of horsepower. But the transmission and the open differential kind of bums it down a little bit. So in performance, I'm giving this 7 out of 10 points. And moving on to the aftermarket support, there is a lot of research done to these recently, just within these last couple of perhaps 4 years. A lot of people have been digging into these and starting to modify them even more. So there are a bunch of information out there for you to consume and to be able to modify your own. But the pricing of the parts and how accessible it is kind of bumps it down to a 5 out of 10 points because they're not really all that common. And if you crash yours, it's going to be a little bit difficult to find E55 parts out there, especially now as they're getting older. How tunable is the E55 AMG? I mean, it's got the V8, it's got the torque, and it also has a supercharger OEM, which makes it very, very, very easy to tune. And you don't really have to do a lot to make it go super, super fast. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 points on the tunable scale. The E55 handles pretty well, but after all, this is a tank. The only thing that makes you forget how heavy this one is the fact that this one is sitting on coilovers, which kind of helps a little bit because it is a little bit stiffer. It turns okay. Coming out of turns, you got a lot of torque, so you got to be a little bit careful on the gas pedal if you don't know what you're doing. But I just want to give you a bit of an insight of how well built this car actually was and is. Did you know that the E55 W211 has almost identical brake calipers as the SLR McLaren? With all that stuff in mind, I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 points in handling, and we're going to move on to miles per gallon. This is a car you want to put a lot of miles on. And you're also probably going to consume a lot of gallons, but you have the comfort. It looks nice. The audio is great. The exhaust system sounds phenomenal. So with that in mind, I'm giving this 8 out of 10 points in miles per gallon. And we're going to move on to our last criteria, which is going to be bang for the buck. How affordable is this? Do you really get what you pay for? Most definitely, in my opinion, I'm giving this 9 out of 10 points because it is fairly cheap. You can pick a nice one up for anywhere between $8,000 to $15,000 US today. And in my opinion, I believe that it's going to be hard for cars out there to beat this considering how cheap they are. Guys, we want to know what you think about the E55 W211, and if there is any other car you want us to review, please leave that in the comments so we can try to make that happen for you. And if you like and appreciate these videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new episodes coming out. Thank you for watching.